Hey guys, Saint here, and I'll be doing the patch 3.16 rundown. It's actually like a bajillion pages, one of the biggest patch notes that's come out since I think the jungle rework at the beginning of last season. So I'm gonna mess some stuff up in this 'cause there's a lot of stuff that I could get right or wrong here, but I'm gonna give you like my first impressions on at least what I think from looking at all the changes. So let's hop into it. Alright, so Darius, his attack range is at 175 instead of 125, so I'll have like a little extra reach, so maybe he can last it a little bit better, and he can actually get like autos off a little bit better. His attack damage growth is now 5, so that's higher than it was before. Health growth is higher. His attack speed, or his armor is higher, and his base attack speed is low as crap, and his attack speed per level is low as crap. So like, at no point ever will you be able to build like an attack speed based Darius just because of this. Like the base attack speed nerf is really huge, and the attack speed growth stat is also really huge. So there will be no way you could ever get like a fast attacking Darius that could like apply hemorrhage stacks from autoing. So most of your hemorrhage stacks are gonna be applied from like your Q and then like your W reset. Alright, the duration of hemorrhage is now 5 seconds, and now it does less damage. You can see here it does less damage, but it's now physical instead of magic damage. And this is like a buff slash nerf, because before it was really hard to itemize against Darius, because if you stacked armor, his hemorrhage did magic damage, so his magic damage would do a fuck ton of damage to you, and you'd still die to Darius, and it just made it almost impossible to itemize against him. And on top of that, he had true damage too. So now the hemorrhage does physical damage, so it will do more damage once you have armor pen. So I think Black Cleaver will be a really big pickup on Darius. Like I'm pretty sure if you just like hit him with 1 Q and like an auto, like it'll full stack the Black Cleaver, and then your bleeds will just end up doing more damage overall. But this is like the real big thing that got me, is no longer grants movement speed per champions affected. When I see this, it just like screams that Darius is gonna get kited into the ground and he'll never catch anybody or any targets. Like the movement speed on the passive is like really huge, because you could use it to apply stacks to the jungler and the top laner when they come to gank you, and you could actually run away from them, or you could actually catch up to people. And the fact that they removed this means that, like, before I even see any of the other changes to the kit, I could already tell that Darius is just gonna be a useless piece of shit, and he's just gonna get kited all day. So I don't know. Not really feeling that. Alright, so Decimate also costs less mana, but it has a 0.75 second delay. Like, 0.75 seconds doesn't sound like that much, but to put it in perspective, 0.75 seconds is the exact amount of delay that people are bitching about the ping on wait, oh, where'd it go? For the server move. So, you bitch, I don't know, that's 0.75 seconds is a pretty long delay, man, for an ability. Like, that's a pretty big windup. I mean, I'm sure you'll still be able to hit it, but I don't know. It not being instant is going to be kind of annoying. But Darius now heals for 10% of his missing health for each enemy hit by a Decimate Blade, up to a maximum of 30%. So if you have a lot of health, like, this is going to be ridiculous in team fights. If you have low CDR, you can just be pretty much damn near unkillable in a team fight. However, the base damage got lowered, but it now applies off your total attack damage instead of your bonus attack damage. So what that means is that if you have 200 damage or so, you'll be doing a little bit more. You'll be doing about equal damage with it. But before then, I'd have to like look at all the numbers and like do all the math. But I think this is actually not even a buff or a nerf. I think it's like about the same damage like overall. And then the handle damage, it means if you hit them with the inside of the Decimate, will also do less damage as well. So you need to hit them with the max range Decimate, which is going to be harder because of the 0.75 second delay on the ability. Enemies hit by Decimate handle no longer receive stacks of hemorrhage as well. So this means that Darius, if he's fighting in like close melee range, is going to have like a hard time applying his Decimate stacks as well. So I don't know, fighting with him is going to be kind of weird. You have to keep them in like the sweet spot, and since you don't have the movement speed because they removed it from the hemorrhage, as you can see earlier, it's going to be really hard to keep them in that sweet spot. And then Crippling Strike now costs less mana, and also has a lower cooldown, 5 seconds. And the damage is also lower, but now the slow is 90%, and it has a 1 second duration instead of 2. What this means is that if you have max CDR, you'll be able to apply the slow, you know, like every 2.7 seconds or whatever, something like that, 2.75 seconds. So you'll have the slow on them like pretty often, but uh, it doesn't slow attack speed or anything like that anymore. So it's kind of like it's kind of a wonk slow, and it also no longer reduces crippling strike's base cooldown per hemorrhage stack on the target. So overall, I think this is a nerf to crippling strike, and I don't really think there's that good of an ability anymore. So not really feeling these nerfs to the crippling strike. Apprehend. Pulled in this get there during the cast time. Enemies pulled by Apprehend are slowed by 90% for 1 second. I mean, 1 second is not that long, especially if the enemy has mercs. And then this is actually a buff overall. Like Apprehend, I feel like got buffed here. So enemies pulled by Apprehend, like it's nice that it has a slow on it. This will allow you to apply your W a little bit more and stay in like the right range. And the cast time is also lower, so this is an overall buff to Apprehend. This is actually a pretty good buff. This will help you stick on targets a little bit better, but once again, you still don't have the movement speed on Hemorrhage, so it's going to be hard to like actually stick on them. Like even if you do slow them, 100 billion champions in the game have like jumps, so they don't give a fuck if they're slowed, and they'll just like jump away from you, and they're not going to care if they get slowed. So let's see, and then Noxian Guillotine now does 100, 200, 300 damage, which is less than it was before, but now has no mana cost at max rank. It also has no mana cost on the extra Guillotine cast, so you're gonna be able to, when you do go off with Darius, you're gonna be able to go off a lot harder. Upon executing an enemy champion, all nearby lesser creatures, non-champions become terrified. I think that's just for aesthetic effects. So overall, looking at this, I think that in lower and mid elo, like Darius will be considered super scary, but in high elo, he's just like the biggest piece of shit, and nobody's gonna play him, and he'll just get kited, and you'll never see him competitive play. That's my take on Darius. Alright, Garen, let's see. His health growth stat actually got lowered by quite a bit. His attack damage stat got buffed by like 1. That's okay, I guess. I mean, that's like what, 18 more damage at level 18. It's like not that much. And his armor growth got increased by 0.3. Not a big deal. And his attack range got increased, so that's okay, I guess. His decisive strike now has 1.5 second at all ranks. That's like such a short. Like 1.5 second silence is pretty garbage, especially if the target is mercs. I'm not really feeling that. Like, I like the 2.5 second silence. That's one of the good. Like, if you flash Q'd on somebody as Garen, you get the full E off, and then you get your ultimate off too, because the silence was so long. But now, like, if you flash Q somebody, you're gonna be able to get like part of your E off, and then maybe if you're lucky, your ultimate before they flash away and like get away from you. And they also nerfed the movement speed duration as well when you have points in it. So it's going to make it a little bit harder to catch people with Garen, so I'm not really feeling this nerf either. Then on top of that, your W no longer gives you tenacity when you activate it. I thought this was one of the Garen's like best things. Like I played a lot of Garen jungle and some top lane Garen, and this is one of the best features of Garen, and they removed it, so not feeling that either. No longer passively increases Garen's bonus armor and magic resist, so now instead passively killing units permanently against 0.2 armor and magic resist, 1 per kill per champions and large monsters, up to a maximum of 30 at all ranks. So eventually you'll have like 30 more armor and magic resist, which is like nice, I guess, but I still would rather have the bonus armor and magic resist gain and then the tenacity. So I think overall this is a nerf to the W. I'm not feeling the nerf there. Judgment. Basically, they made it do less damage in the earlier ranks, but as you move up in ranks, you'll be able to get more ticks off because you'll be spinning faster. So instead of getting like 5 ticks, so like early levels you get 5 ticks of this 30 plus 0.38 damage, whatever the fuck that number is. But as you get level 18, the spin will still last the same amount of time, but you'll get 10 ticks off instead. So overall, this will do a lot more damage later in the game. And then canceling Judgment early refunds the cooldown equal to the remaining duration of the spin. So you'll be able to like basically like E is going to be your primary form of damage rather than Q. Like before, even when like I was playing Garen, I thought Q was like a major portion of his damage and like his sticking and his utility and all that kind of shit. Now they're shifting it back more to the E, and like the E is like where the majority of your damage is going to come from and like how you're going to play the champion. Now Judgment deals 33% increased damage when striking a single target as well. So if you get on top of somebody, you're probably going to kill their ass with the E. Like, if you have any kind of damage items, you'll probably just, like, blow them the fuck up. So, I think Garen will do a lot more damage, especially in 1v1 combat. Especially if they're against the villain, too, where your ultimate does true damage. So judgment ticks and base attacks against the villain deal an additional 1% of their maximum health as true damage. That means if you get your full E off, they'll take 10% of their health as true damage, and then on top of that, your ultimate also does true damage instead of magic damage to the villain. If you guys don't know what the villain is I think the last person who got a kill on the opposing team. It'll like mark them, and then you can see that they're marked, and then you just do extra true damage to them until they die. Overall, these are like some neat changes. I think depending on how Garen's laning is, maybe he'll be like an okay laner, but I don't know how he'll be. Maybe he'll be okay jungler as well, because like these E changes look to be like he does pretty good damage, especially against single targets. So you'll be able to kill buffs faster as well. So maybe he'll be an okay jungler and maybe an okay top laner. But he still doesn't really provide that much utility like he did. Like he just never had utility. Like he doesn't have any like slows or like stuns. I mean, he has like a silence, I guess. But usually people just like run away from you, and you like never get a chance to kill them as Garen. So I don't think anything's really going to change with Garen in that sense. So he's still pretty much overall the same champion with just a little bit more damage and less like tenacity and things like that. Health growth. So now SKarner has less health growth and more attack damage per level. Not really that big a number, so it doesn't matter too much. But now they've added the passive Crystal Spires. While near active Crystal, SKarner gains 100 movement speed, 48 to 150%. Wait, yeah, 48 to 150% attack speed, which would be 42 plus 6% champion level. Attack speed, and restores 2% of his maximum mana. And they're basically like there's these little spires on the map, and you have to control them, and there's like 4 of them, and I don't know where they're going with this, man. Basically, like what I see of this, if I'm a jungler and like I see like SKarner has a spire, I'm just like, all right, I'm probably just gonna like walk away from you and like I'm probably not gonna mess with you. I mean, what the thought process is that like you'll find SKarner near one of his spires, and he'll just like run up with his movement speed and like ulti you, and I'm like, wow, like I can't fight SKarner when he's in his crystal spire. He's so strong, but it's like, wait a second. This doesn't do shit for like when he's near Baron or Dragon or like sieging or doing any of these kind of things. So, I mean, maybe this will make him like harder to counter jungle him and harder to like fight him in the like when he's in your jungle if he has control of the spire. But I don't really think that this is like a game breaking. This is like, oh, like cool, like sometimes he's stronger. Like that's like what it is to me. It's like, okay, like I guess you can do that. I don't know. And apparently you get gold if the enemy gets gold if they capture your spires as well. So that's kind of like, yeah. So Crystal Slash now does wait. Both charged and uncharged Q have a traded base damage for scaling ratios. Cost less mana, can be cast more. So cooldown on Q is 2.5 seconds at max rank. Costs less mana as well, but does slightly less damage and has, wait, what is this? Damage ratio 0.4 bonus. Total attack damage removed. No, why would you remove his a ratio? And then total attack damage. So actually 0.4. So if you have 200 damage, 0.45. This is a buff if you actually have like. If you actually have some damage, I think this will be a buff like later. But I don't really think anybody's gonna be building 80 SKarner. So yeah. And the charge duration is also lower as well, 4 seconds instead of 5. The cooldown reduction on non-champions, 0.5 per attack, is now 0.25 seconds per attack. Cooldown reduction versus champions is still 1 second. So basically, if you're dueling another champion, your Q will be going off like literally every single auto. So this will make him a super strong 1v1 duelist. Especially if you're like fighting in the Crystal Spires, because you'll have so much attack speed. So I think SKarner will be like super strong 1v1ing people, and yeah, but he'll need some items to do it, I think. No longer increases movement speed or attack speed. Wait, what? That sucks so bad. His Q no longer increases movement speed and attack speed. This is going to make when you're fighting away from the spires like super weak. So once again, in the Baron and Dragon fights and when you're sieging, SKarner will be probably a useless pile of shit. His W now does 16% of SKarner's maximum health plus 0.8 ability ratio, so that would mean that if you have like 5k health, or let's say like 3k, that's like a better number. So that'd be 160 health per 1,000. Later in the game, this will be a buff, but early, actually even early in the game, it's fine. So this is like overall a buff to the ability. Like the W will be much stronger. Fracture now it costs less mana, and now now the cooldown is a little bit longer, like 1 second. That's not that bad. The slow duration is also 0.5 seconds lower. Fracture's missile speed decreases for each enemy's hit. That's not that big a deal. Flicks targets of crystal venom for 5 seconds, causing SKarner's next basic attack against them to deal 125 additional physical damage and stun them for 1 second. So this is going to put a lot of SKarner's power on his E, but his E cooldown's like super long, like 11 seconds. Even if you have max CDR, that's still like, you know, that's still a pretty decent cooldown on that ability. But having 1 second stun is pretty strong, and like they pretty much moved his passive onto his E, which is kind of weird. So if you miss the E, you're gonna be pretty much shit out of luck with SKarner. So, but you'll be able to proc the stun faster though, which is nice. So you'll be able to catch people a little bit faster. You could even like flash E, or like I don't know if you can E flash. Maybe you can. But you can even like E flash somebody and then like auto them, and then like that'll allow your team to catch up to that person, and then you can like ulti them back afterwards. So, crystallizing enemies of fractured and pale grants SKarner crystal charges, the buffer being near an active crystal for the duration of the disable, and reduces the cooldown of fracture by the same amount. Huh. So basically your passive bonus when you stun people. And that's only 1 second. Oh, okay, so you will be able to apply your E pretty fast, because this will, for the duration to disable, and reduces the cooldown of fracture by the same amount. But that's only like 1 second. Or is it going to go out to 2 seconds, or is it going to go out to 1 second? I guess it'll go out 2 seconds. So I get. Just looking at these numbers, I can't tell if SKarner's going to be. He's either going to be like super broken, or he's going to be just a straight pile of shit. Like there's not going to be any in between on this. I have to see like how strong this like whole E interaction is, and like how long you can actually keep it on somebody. If you can actually keep this E on somebody, it looks just like straight up ridiculously strong. But if the E is like hard to keep on people, like if you miss your E, like you lose so much of your power. So I don't know. I have to see him in game, but SKarner is like looking kind of promising. And his ultimate costs 100 mana at all ranks, that's less, and then has also a lower cooldown, and does, I guess it'd be the same damage. 100% of SKarner's total attack damage at the beginning and end of the spell is like, that's going to end up being roughly the same damage. If you guys didn't know, SKarner has the highest base attack damage in the game, which is like 1.4, or I mean 140 at level 18, so overall this will actually do more damage at level 18 than it does now. So SKarner will do more damage. No longer deals extra damage to units affected by the crystal venom. Okay. And then yeah. I think overall SKarner got buffed, I'd say. But he has like weird mechanics, and I have to see how they interact with the game. I'm gonna have to try him out a lot in the jungle. I'll probably be playing him some when the patch hits, and I'll like give you guys a little bit more feedback on him then. But right now he looks more promising than Garen and Mordekaiser for sure. Or he looks more promising than any of the other juggernaut champions for sure. Alright, movement speed is now even lower. Somehow they're like, you know what we need on Mordekaiser? We need this motherfucker to be even slower. It's like, what? And then the base health is now went from 555 to 525. So he's not as tanky. And his health growth stat got buffed, so that's like okay, so he's gonna a little bit more health. Like 80 is actually, you know, 80 health per level is actually lower than most ADCs, so he pretty squishy. And his base attack damage got increased. His attack damage growth stat got increased by a lot. His attack speed growth stat got increased by a decent amount. Health regen got increased. Health regen growth stat got increased by, actually got decreased. And then his attack range got increased. So all these changes, I hate them. Anytime they remove movement speed from an enemy, especially a champion, especially in melee, I'm just like, ugh, like why did you do this, right? Like this champion already gets kited so hard, like he's just gonna get kited even harder. So now his shield 1.5 the shield decay instead of 3% per second is now 1.5% of base health per second. I'm not really sure the math on that, but yeah, I can't really give you it. Yeah, I don't know the math on that. Iron Man's shield no longer decays below 25%. So you'll always have at least a quarter of your shield on. That's pretty cool. I like that buff. That's a buff for sure. And the maximum shield is now 25% of Mordekaiser's maximum health instead of being 630. So let's see. If you have, let's see, 1,000 health. I already ordered the water. Chris, I already ordered the water. Anyways, we already ordered water. But, okay, so, and then, so let me do the math on that. So that means for every 1,000 you get 250 shield, 2,000, so you need 3,000 or so health to break over to where this would be higher. You need between 2,500 and 3,000 health for this to break higher, which is not too hard to achieve. So his shield overall is going to be stronger, but the shield generation will also be slower because it'll be 25% of damage dealt instead of 35%. And then reworked Mordekaiser's next 3 hits. I don't think this is going to be hard to stack the shield, by the way. If you hit like a 3-man E or something, you'll instantly stack the shield. See, Mordekaiser's next 3 hits are empowered. Each deal 2 to 3 times the last by spell rank up to 1 billion damage. Up to 1 billion damage. 2 to 3 times the last by spell rank. Huh? So, okay, so it's a 3-hit active. Now empowers Mordekaiser's next 3 attacks. Each attack deals 3 times the previous attack's damage. So if your first attack does 100 damage, the second attack deals 300, and the third does 900. What the fuck? That's so much damage. That's crazy. And then his damage is going to be 20. Oh, but the base damage is so low in this. Like, 20 is like nothing. So, does it have a ratio? The ratio is 0.3 total AD attack damage and 0.2 ability power. So, yeah, the maximum base damage at level 1 will be 180 with a 2.7 total AD ratio and a 1.8 ability ratio. You definitely need a lot of items to make this like be stronger than it was before. And the fact that you have to get 3 autos off, like getting 3 autos off as fucking Mordekaiser is like good luck. You know, like good luck, he's already slow as shit. Like you're never gonna be able to get these autos off. Never gonna happen. His W, now Mordekaiser and target ally champion get 75 movement speed while moving toward one another. When close to one another, both deal magic damage to nearby enemies for 4 seconds. Mordekaiser no longer splits experience for any lane minion. So this is like the thing where they want him to be a support. So Mordekaiser now, if you like target and skill shit, will give you full experience. So Mordekaiser will actually be higher level than the ADC he's laning with in most cases. And that's only lane minions, by the way, not jungle camps. So you can't do any like cheesy gromp shit with it. Mordekaiser now receives full experience from any lane minions he kills. Okay, so W costs nothing. That's pretty good. The cooldown is 8 seconds as well. That's pretty low. The damage is 300 over 4 seconds. I'm assuming if both of the W's hit people, that'd be 600 damage. At the end of Harvester's duration, or when Mordekaiser reactivates it, he deals 130 damage to all nearby enemies, healing both Mord and his ally for damage dealt. I mean, that could be a nice heal. If you like W the minion wave, but you'd push the minion wave. Huh. This is like what's going to make him a decent support, if anything, but I don't see any like playmaking abilities that he has so far. Both Harvester of Sorrows, Dots, and Detonation can overlap, dealing damage twice to enemies hit by Mordekaiser and his ally. Mordekaiser can cast Harvester of Sorrow on his enslaved soul. So, this is like the big turning point on his kit. This is what's going to allow you to move around, because you need to like use your W on allies to get like closer. Like you use your W to like run up to people and catch people and stuff, but in a 1v1 scenario, I think that this is going to be like a pretty big hurt to Mordekaiser, because he's just still slow as shit and he can't really get that nice bonus movement speed unless he's like using it in tandem with like his ADC or like his ultimate or something like that. But it seems like it's going to do a fuck ton of damage though, and the heal seems pretty nice as well. So this is a nice ability overall though for duo lane, not for solo. E now does 155 base damage instead of 250, which is a nerf, but now does 0.6 ability power and 0.6 total attack damage. Oh, actually, no, it's a buff. It's a buff, because it does 0.6 of your total attack damage as well. And then it has a 5-second cooldown. Now grants 15% of Iron Man's maximum shield when hitting champions. So he's going to be pretty hard to kill with these W and E changes, and also the change to his passive. And then Children of the Grave, you now get Ghost stats gain 50 attack damage. Dealing damage to Dragon curses it. If Mordekaiser team slays it, the Dragon Soul is enslaved and follows them around. This removes any champion Ghost Mordekaiser has active. While commanding the Dragon Force, Mordekaiser cannot cast Shallow Grave. like to put this, I don't know how strong the dragon is when you're gonna be able to enslave it, but you could get the dragon and then you could W it and you could run around the lanes and like kill people and shit. Maybe like I was about to say maybe he'll be a decent jungler because you could run up to the lane and like W the person you're ganking and then like use the movement speed and run up to them and. But no, you just still have no utility. So I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff here as a support, but I don't see any CC. So like if you're going into late game, you still. This is like the biggest problem I have with support champions like this. Like think about Soraka, right? Like when I'm playing jungle and I have Soraka on my team, I just want to like cut my balls off because it's so shitty. Because like she has no gank setup, right? Like if you go down to gank bottom, it's like, all right, Soraka, hit him with your heal, and it's like doesn't do anything, right? And there's like no way that she's gonna be able to set up a gank for you. This is the exact same scenario with Mordekaiser where he has no gank setup, he has no playmaking potential, he can't roam in the lanes either. So the fact that you have no roam presence and you have no gank setup just means you're a shitty support to me. But maybe he'll be strong in lane. Who knows? We'll see. I think that all the reworks are complete shit outside of SKarner. SKarner like looks like he has potential. Garen, he's like still like the same piece of like I don't know. All the rework champions just don't seem that good to me. But whatever. Let's go to the actual changes to the game. So pretty much all the support champions got armor buffs because they nerfed a lot of the armor items in the game. So as you can see, you just got armor buffs across the board. Our health buffs, so that's going to be nice. Ari now, her healing on her Q, instead of being 3-20, 2+1 per champion level per unit hit, is now 3, 5, 9, 18 per unit hit at, so 18 per unit hit. So I think this is a nerf overall. Yeah, this is definitely a nerf to the ability, because... Yeah, this is overall nerf to the ability. I don't know why they would nerf. Yeah, they just like randomly nerfed her Q. I don't know why they nerf Ari's Q. Like I didn't think that Ari was like that crazy strong. That's a weird nerf. Then headbutt, the travel speed is now 1200 instead of 1500. It's gonna make doing headbutt pull really kind of hard to use. Like first, like it's gonna take a while to get used to the headbutt pull combo. But it'll make people that like aren't very good at using it. It'll make it easier for them to use the headbutt pull combo. But on top of this, it's a double-edged sword because now, like I thought in high level play, it's already super easy to flash Alistar headbutt. If you see Alistar coming at you, you can flash his headbutt so easily. But now it's gonna be like the easiest thing. Like if Alistar headbutts you, he's just gonna you're gonna flash it every time. Like you're gonna flash his combo every single time. So what this means is that Alistar now, if he wants to initiate a combo, has to flash headbutt pulve. Like he has to do a flash close range headbutt pulve, or he has to pulve flash and then headbutt afterwards. Like that's the way he's going to set up his plays now, instead of doing max range headbutt pulves. Because max range headbutt pulves can really limit. Like they're really easy to outplay. So and then if you're sitting there and you've used both your headbutt and your pulve and the enemy flashed it, and you have no abilities, it's going to leave you kind of like shit out of luck. A lot of bug fixes and changes to Azir. I'm not really going to go over this because it's all bug fixes. Like, don't really care about bug fixes. Elise, they nerfed her Q. Now basically they cut the damage in half on the Q for the targets, like the bonus. Like now instead of doing 8% of the target's card health, it does 4%. I think this is a huge nerf to Elise, and I think that once again she's going to go back to just not being played anymore. So good job, Riot. You like over buffed a champion and then you fucking over nerfed it. Nice. You know, like can't you just like find a middle point? Why do you gotta cut the damage straight up in half? Like, come on, man. Like, give it like a little nerf or something. Like this is too much. It's too much, Riot. Too much. Kassadin is Riftwalk now additionally scales with 0.2 ability power and extra stacks Riftwalk and 0.1 ability power per stack. So if you stack up your Riftwalk a couple times, you'll be able to like pop some people. This is a nice little quality of life buff to Kassadin. I think it'll make him definitely stronger in the mid and late games. But in the early games, you're not going to really be able to stack your Riftwalk that much because you don't have enough mana to stack it that much. So I think it's definitely a buff to Kassadin in mid and late game, though. And a small buff to him in the early game. So great. We need Kassadin to come back. No, I don't like Kassadin. Kayle, now her base attack damage is lower by 5. Like, that's a random change. That doesn't... I don't know. That doesn't do too much. Seems kind of weird. Lee Sin. These may look like small buffs, but these are actually massive buffs to Lee Sin. 20 energy on his first attack and 10 energy on the second. So before, like, when you do your pass, you're like 15, 15 on the energy gain. Now, like, it'll be 20 and then 10. So you get more energy up front. So if you're, like, Q a target and you, like, need more energy to use another ability, like get your E slow off or something, you'll be able to auto and get, like, way more energy to proc that ability faster. So this is just going to be better for, like, skirmishing and, like, getting the energy on demand with Lucian. So I think that this is a pretty decent buff to him. And then on top of it, like, people, like, the biggest gripes of Lucian is, like, late game is like, wow, like, I just don't scale into late game. And that's because in order to scale into late game as Lucian, you only have one option, and that's kick the fucking ADC or the AP carry into your team and kill them. And that's, like, literally, like, one of your only plays. Unless you have AD, like, if you have AD and, like, armor pen, you can actually, like, kick tanks and stuff. But tank Lucian is, like, pretty much shit late game, and he has no scaling whatsoever. So what this means is that now, if let's say like they have like a 4,000, 5,000 health tank that's coming at my team, and they have a ADC right behind them, I can kick that tank, and it'll do 20%, 21% of the target's bonus health. So to put that in perspective, that's going to be a number between like 2,000 to 3,000. So 21% of let's say best case scenario 3,000, okay? Which is like that's really pushing it because nobody's going to have that much health. Well, maybe like in super late game, but 3,000, and you do, so it's like, that'll be like 6, is that right? That'll be 600 extra damage. So like, 21% off each 1,000 be 200. Yeah, it's 600 extra damage that would do. So then, that means your ultimate will do 1,200 damage to the person behind him. So if you kick that, like, Fed Gragas into the Jinx behind him, and it does 1,200 damage to him, or like, AoE 1,200 damage to everybody. Like, you can set up some pretty nice plays where you can just kick tanks into people, and it'll set up just one-shotting. So I think this will just add an extra mechanic to Lucian that I really like, and I think that the good Lucian players that actually understand how to line up kicks really well will really thrive with this, and I think it's a really great buff. All right, and this is, by the way, this is also on top of AD. So if you're an AD Lucian and you have like some pretty decent damage, your like kick will do like 2,000 damage to somebody. Like if you kick like a tank and you have like decent AD, if you have like 380 on Lucian or something, you're gonna do 2,000 damage to a person. You like straight up one shot somebody with the kick behind them. So you could single-handedly win a team fight with this. W, they pretty much sped up the missile speed on it. I don't know, dude. LeBlanc sucks ever since they nerfed the chains, and I don't know. I don't really think she's that good. Sorry, I got hiccups. But, I think she's actually, I mean, she's always was a lane bully, but I don't think she's that good anymore. Like, maybe this will help her, but the chains and all that, and, like, I actually have to see how this is in game. 150 missile speed's pretty decent, but I don't think she has, like, that many good matchups right now, so I'm not really feeling LeBlanc right now, so we'll just, yeah, bye-bye LeBlanc. Lysandra, though, they buffed her. Actually, this is a pretty decent buff, so now when you self-cast Frozen Tomb, it'll do 200, it'll heal you for 200 plus 0.3 ability power ratio, plus 1% per 1% of your missing health. So that means that if you go, like, I think a Roa build will become pretty popular with Lysandra here, because if you have more health, of course you get more health back. So I think the Roa Lysandra build that a lot of top laners are doing is going to be really nice, because you can jump into a team, W them, and then ulti yourself, like, after you get really low, and it will just make it even harder to kill Lysandra. So I think that this is actually a pretty decent buff to Lysandra, but overall she doesn't do like that much damage right now, because they did nerf her Q a decent amount. But I think Lysandra overall is gonna, she'll see some play with this buff. This is a pretty decent buff. I like this buff. It makes you think about her abilities. So, alright, so we have Lucian. His Lightsinger's second shot now always does 100% damage to minions, so that'll help you with CSing a little bit. And then now his AD ratio on the Q on the second hit, on the second hit is 0.1 higher. So that means for every 100 AD you have, you'll do 10 more damage. Whoopee! I mean, that's, who cares about 10 damage? That's not that much. And then Ardent Blaze now costs even more mana, and now has a 1 second duration on the movement speed bonus. And at first I thought this was pretty cool. I was like, wow, like, Lucian can proc his speed up on his teammates. But then I read this, and it's like, Lucian's teammates can trigger Ardent Blaze movement speed bonus for him. So, 1 second, I think this is a nerf overall. Like, the fact that your teammates, like, can proc it, but it's only 1 second bonus to his movement speed, it seems kind of weird. I don't know. Not really feeling these Lucian buffs. They're, like, this is a nice buff, but this Ardent Blaze buff is just like, seems like crap. Don't like it. Siphoning Strike. Range is now 150. This range is not stacked with the Fury of the Sands. Okay. Getting 25 more range doesn't do much. Nami, her movement speed is now 60 from the passive, and now has a better AP ratio on it. And Surging Tide's movement speed bonus is doubled to allies within tidal wave. So when you ulti, people will be fucking moving so fast. That's 120 movement speed gain that everybody will have in Nami. So it's like a Sivir fucking ult. So Nami will be able to set up plays a little bit better, but I still think Nami like only really has a couple good matchups like into Janna, and she's still super easy to gank and kill. So maybe she'll see some play, but she still has the same problems as she has before, where she's just a free kill if the jungler comes. They made defensive ball curl do 10 more damage. That's great. Rammus still sucks. Equalizer now has a 25-second longer cooldown at max rank, which kind of sucks because in a lot of cases with Equalizer they use it to wave clear, and you'd also use it in like back-to-back team fights in the late game. And 25 seconds is a pretty big nerf to a cooldown. So I think Rumble's still going to be an incredibly strong champion just because when you do team fight and hit a good equalizer, you just instantly win your team the game. But you're going to have less of those equalizers overall. And then Tahm Kench, Devour, now prioritizes champions over minions. God bless. As a Tahm Kench main, I gotta say, this is annoying. Another thing annoying about this is I wish it would prioritize enemy champions over melee champion, or over your, like, let's say you have your partner and you have a champion that has 3 stacks of Devour buff on them, right? And they're sitting right next to each other. It will just, I think 9 times out of 10, it'll always eat your partner rather than eating the enemy. Which is the most frustrating shit ever because I want to, like, eat that motherfucker and kill him, and I'm not getting it off because my person's standing right on top of him, autoing him. So, this is a nice buff, but I'd much rather see this, like, also do what I just said. And enemies regurgitated have a 0.25 second stun. That's, like, not that big a stun, but it'll allow you to get another auto and a Q off, which will allow you to stick to them better. And then enemy warning particles spawn 1 second later, previously spawned for enemies before Tom's on my way ping. So it'll allow you to set up your ult plays a little bit better. Like before I thought like the warning for the ult made it like, you like never get anybody with the ult because the warning's so like, it's so long, it's so shitty. But I don't know. To be honest, like if they want to make Tahm Kench viable, they just need to give him like 10 to 15 movement speed. If they gave him like 15 movement speed, he'd be a great champion and like people would be playing him. But instead they like want to do, they need to buff this champion, dude. And they need to give him the 15 movement speed. Riot, listen, please. 15 movement speed for this guy. No, Riot. Anyways, Teemo, passive camouflage. Fixed the bug where displacing Teemo while brush would reveal him. Noxus Trap no longer, the slow no longer decays. Enemies poisoned by Noxus Trap are revealed for its duration. Teemo still sucks, dude. None of these things do anything. Yeah. Actually, I played a Teemo jungle game. It was pretty fun with Devour. Give it a whirl, guys. Teemo jungle with Devour. It's pretty fun. You can try that out, but Teemo as a whole sucks. Twitch, his Q costs 20 less mana, and his ultimate does 4 more damage. 4 more bonus attack damage. Okay. That doesn't really do too much. Twitch is still Twitch. Nothing's changed about him. And then all these Hextech core changes are pretty much making Viktor's early game weaker, but his late game slightly stronger. That's like pretty much what to get out of this. Viktor still will be super strong because he's a stupid champion. Vel'Koz, his reactivation time on his Q is now 0.25 seconds instead of 0.3. It's not that much. The secondary shot range is a little bit higher, so you'll be able to do like a little bit better trick shots with Vel'Koz. Vel'Koz still sucks though because he has no escape, and his damage like output's really weird, so still a shitty champion. Volibear now, when he activates his ultimate, it will also give you, like, you know when you auto and you like lightning chain everybody, it'll also when you ultimate, it'll lightning chain everybody around you, so it's like a little bit of buff to his damage. But the lightning chain activation is honestly not that much of damage, so Volibear still has the same innate problems where he gets kited and all that mess. But Volibear is super good in like low and mid elo because he's kind of hard to kite for people who don't understand how to kite very well or like peel. So this Volibear will probably be the bane of all existence in low and mid elo. Zac, now you have 1800 range on his elastic slingshot and max range. Like, that's so far. That's super far, man. Like, you'll be able to gank people from, like, God knows where. But the problem with Zach is he can't skirmish very well. He doesn't really do that much damage, especially if you miss your E. So, don't really think Zach's that good. And this probably won't make him that good either. But it'll be cool, like, some of the neat ganks he can do with this, so. Zed, now you can pull back from your ultimate in 0.5 seconds instead of 1 second. Pretty nice buff to Zed. Probably see a little bit more Zed in solo queue. But 0.5 seconds is still enough to stun his ass, so. I don't know. It's like a buff to Zed, but there's counterplay to him now. Let's just say that. But he's gonna be. You're gonna see him more in solo queue now, I think, because this is a decent buff to Zed. And then they added this Deadmans plate item in the game. Like, I tried it some, and like this is like their item. Like, wow, if we just like make all these juggernaut champions and give them super slow movement speed, they'll all build Deadman's plate and they'll be able to catch up to people, and then they'll hit them with the big nasty damage. It's like, no, like Deadman's plate is like. I'd rather just build fucking Randuins, and I don't want to have to build an item to like catch up to people. Like, bruh, I don't know, man. Like in the past, like the proc doesn't really even do that much either, and same with like the slow. So basically, like you'll use this item, you like run fast, you like build up stacks like Static Shiv, and then once you reach your max stack, you have a lot of movement speed, and then you discharge the movement speed when you auto somebody, and it'll like do a slow, which decays over 1 second, which is like nothing. And it does like a little bit extra damage. So I mean, this item's like okay. I've seen it like be okay in some scenarios, but 50 armor, 600 health. They're just like pretty basic stats, and I don't know. I guess you'd see these on a lot of the Juggernaut champions, but I'd rather spend my money on other stuff. This item, Steraks Gage. So on paper, like when you look at this item up front, you're like, wow, this is a great item. It gives you 25% base attack damage increase, and then it gives 500 health, and then if you get the rage thing, you do another 25% base attack. Wow, that's so much. But to put that into perspective, your average champion's base attack damage is like 100 to 140. All right, so that means 120. Let's say 120 for the even cutoff point. So that means you're gonna only get 25% of 120, and then 50% of 120. So that's like not that much damage, man. I mean, I guess it's a cheap item, but it doesn't really seem like it's going to do that much damage. I don't know. Taking at least 400 to 180 or 1800 damage will grant Primal Rage. Primal Rage causes your champion to gain increased size, 25% additional base attack damage, and rapidly decaying shield for 30% of your maximum health. This shield's going to be really nice. I'll say that much. Like, the shield is super nice, but the damage gain it gets is not that much. So I'm trying to think of who I'd build this on. You know who I'd actually build this on? Maybe Lucian. Well, never mind. Lucian's AD ratios are way too good. Take that back. You'd build this on. I mean, maybe the Juggernaut champion. I don't know. 500 health and this, like, the stats on it are too weird for me. The shield is nice, but yeah, maybe on Volibear. I could see this built on Volibear or something like that. But I don't really think that many champions will use this item. Maybe SKarner. No, because I'd rather have CDR on SKarner. Yeah, I don't know about this item, man. I just don't know when I'd build it. This item, however, the Titanic Hydra, I'm liking this item because it's Tiamat plus Giant Spell, so you get 400 health and 50 AD, and 100% health regen. And then now it gives you this like sick nasty cleave, base attack steal 5 plus 1% of your maximum health to your primary target, and 40 plus 2.5% of your maximum health is physical damage to enemies in a cone. Your primary target does not take this damage. So that means that like, what's 2.5% of 1,000 is 25 damage. Wait, is that right? Yeah, 25 damage. So that means like, if you have like 4k health, you'll be doing an extra 100 damage cleaved, which is pretty nice. That'd be 140 damage. So. And then also on top of that, the active cleaves damage to all targets is increased to 40 plus 10% of your maximum health as bonus physical damage at a larger cone on your next basic attack. So this will make health stackers be able to do like pretty fucking reasonable damage, and yeah, this will be like good on probably like the Darius and the Garen and all that nonsense that they're trying to go with the juggernauts. This is actually like this will be a pretty decent item on Tank Lucian as well. I could definitely see this item being built on tank leasing because it gives AD and it gives health and it gives us like pretty nice little like activations and things like that. So I like this item overall. This item's like whatever. This item situationally could be okay, but yeah. And then Warmogs. I've always thought Warmogs are the worst, one of the worst tank items in the game because just building flat health and then getting regen. Like regen's a useless stat, even though like 3% of your max health per second. Like that's nice, I guess against poke, but I don't know. I'm not down with the Warmogs. Shitty item. Never build this on anybody ever. Please never ever build Warmogs. Piece of shit item. Don't build it, folks. Null Mantle. Null Magic Mantle is now 450 instead of 500. So what they did here is they lowered the cost of all the magic resist items, and except for Abyssal. Yeah, Abyssal costs more. They either lowered the cost of all the magic resist components, and then they buffed the magic resist overall. And the reason why they did this, you see they do 5 buff, 5 buff, 5 buff. And they did this because they took 5 magic resist off of Aegis of Legion. So they want it to where if you build your own personal magic resist, it's gonna just be better than building Aegis of Legion. If you remember, like Meteos had some like blogs saying how it's like, oh my god, you have to build Aegis of Legion on everybody. You have to have it every single game, or else you're just gonna lose the team fight. And it's true. The team that doesn't have the Aegis of Legion just pretty much automatically loses if they're like AP heavy. And this is gonna make it to where Aegis of Legion is more of an optional item against like super AP heavy team, rather than an item that's really going to be required in game like every single game, because now it gives 15 magic resist instead of 20. It also costs less as well, and the build path is much better. So you'll be seeing this item on a lot more supports, I guess, and a lot less jungles. Locket of the Iron Solari also costs a little bit less. Like both these items cost less. They buffed the shield on Locket of Iron Solari, but it doesn't last as long. So I'd say overall this is a buff to Locket of Iron Solari outside of the magic resist being less. Like being 15, taking 5 magic resist off an item is like honestly not that big. But of course it is a nerf, and I don't think you'll see Locket every single game. Banner command also is much cheaper now, so I think banner will be like 2750 gold is like pretty good. I think that's a pretty good price, and I think like, if you have banner and like you have Baron, and you banner the cannon man, you like pretty much like win the game if they don't have any like physical damage like poke to deal with it. So I think this is a buff to banner, buff to Locket. This is of course a nerf to Aegis, but it's a buff in a way because it's much cheaper, but it's much easier to get. So I think overall this is a buff to Locket and like all the magic resist aura items. Raptor's Cloak, this item's terrible. ZZ Portal is also terrible. Nobody builds this crap, and nobody ever will build this crap, so who cares about these items? Own Wrecker, it's in another area, also like a terrible item because the stats the item give just get overshadowed by all the other tank items in the game. So still not that good at an item, so who cares if they buff the health regen. Glacial Shroud now costs 50 less gold. That's good because Glacial Shroud's like some nice CDR, and then also that's going to make Iceborne Gauntlet and Zeke's Harbinger also 50 gold cheaper. By the way, I think Zeke's Harbinger is like super good on some supports and some jungles as well, so this is a buff to that. Warden's Mail now costs 50 more gold. I mean honestly 50 gold on all these changes is not that much. Frozen Heart now costs a little bit more gold, but it also gets less armor. I mean, Frozen Heart was already one of the most efficient items in the game, so I think even though it does cost more, it does get less armor. It's still like 20% CDR on an item is like so fucking good, and the aura is super good too. So Frozen Heart's still a great item. Thornmail, on the other hand, it costs 2,300 gold, and like you'll like look at this, you're like, wow, now you'll return 0.25 of your bonus armor. So like let's put that in perspective. Like the most bonus armor you're probably gonna have in a game is like 200, right? So 0.25, that'd be 50 damage you're gonna be returning, plus 15% of their total attack. So let's say a target was critting me for like 800 to 1,000 damage. Let's say 1,000 damage, because that's what like a 6-item AD carry does. You're gonna be returning 50 damage on that, whereas before 15% of 1,000 is fucking a lot more than that 50 damage. So like Thornmail as a whole got nerfed into the ground, and I think it's an absolutely terrible fucking item now, and they fucked up this number super bad, and nobody is ever gonna build this ever again. So shit item, never build Thornmail now. Super shit. Maybe on like Rammus it could be good because you need to like Yeah, you need like Rammus or something that gives like some redonkulous amount of armor in order for this to like be even like reach a cutoff point that's like. Yeah, well, never mind. Rammus just sucks, dude. Like, just don't build this item. It just sucks. Randuins now cost less, but gives 100 less health. It gives 10 less armor. And now the slow duration is consistent. It's 4 seconds. But it also reduces incoming critical strike damage by 10%. I think this is fine. Like, Randuins is still the best tank item in the game. It gives you pretty much, like, all the stats you need. Like, armor, health, and like, gives you utility through the slow. And also reduces critical strike damage by 10%. So I think Randuins is still a great item. And it does give a lot less health than like the Deadmans plate and all those other items that cost similar gold values. So Randuins might not be built every single game, but I think it'll give you options. And now you have to decide between Randuins and like those other like items they added in the game, like Deadman's plate, because Deadman's plate does give a lot of health. Like the new tank items do give a lot of health, and Randuins only gives 400 health with only 60 armor, so yeah. And then so Cinderhulk now gives 400 health when you buy it, but it has a lower health multiplier. So that means that right when you buy the item, it's going to be stronger, but in the mid and late game, it'll definitely be weaker. So interesting change to the item. It's still going to be a great item. Oh, so Righteous Glory costs 100 less gold, but now you lose the Catalyst proc. I'll take that. I'm down with that change. That's still pretty good. I think Righteous Glory is still a really great item. And I think that's it for the patch. And this is like the longest patch note rundown ever, man. Like, I'm like, my throat hurts after like saying all this crap. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll probably play around with SKarner and some of these other champions a little bit more once the patch comes out. And I'll like give you guys a little bit more feedback, probably on Twitter or something, and talk about these champions a little bit more. Maybe I'll like upload a Jungology or something of SKarner, like, or any of these other champions if they can be jungled. But if you guys like these videos, of course, always subscribe to my YouTube, and you'll be able to see my videos when I post them up there. And thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.